the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Dear audience, this is Language and Linguistics Online, and I am going to talk about subordinating clauses. We have already read that there is a main clause, also called independent clause, and a subordinate clause, also called dependent clause. Sometimes when these two clauses are combined together, we get a complex sentence. And when we have got two kinds of clauses and both of them can stand on their own, such type of sentences are called compound sentences. So let's read one example from Jim Miller. Captain Benwick married Lucia and Captain Wentworth married Anne Elliot. So these are the two independent clauses. They can stand on their own. So such type of sentence is called a compound sentence. Mr. Bingley became tired of Jane, or Mr. Darcy persuaded Mr. Bingley to go to London. So again, the clauses, they are conjoined with the help of or. So it means that they are independent clauses, and the sentence is called a compound sentence. Our today's topic is subordinate clauses. Complex sentences consist of a main clause and one or more other clauses subordinate to it. So it means that a sentence requires one independent clause and one or more than one dependent clauses, and such type of sentences are called complex sentences. There are various kinds of complex sentences like complement clause, relative clause, and adverbial clause. But in our today's class, I will be talking about complement clauses only. Some of the examples of a complement clause are: Elizabeth regretted that she had met Wickham. Catherine feared that the abbey was haunted. Abbey is basically a big church where usually nuns they live. These clauses were traditionally called noun clauses. Remember, the italicized part of the sentence, this is a complement clause, and they are also called noun clauses. Elizabeth regretted that she had met Wickham. So that she had met Wickham, it is telling us about regretted, which is a verb. But at the same time, after verb usually we get a noun, which is NP place. So that is why, because that she had met Wickham, it is coming at the place of an NP. This is called a noun clause. But these days people do not talk about it as a noun clause. Rather, people talk about it as a complement clause. Another name for a complement clause is a complementizer. These clauses were traditionally called noun clauses because they occur in slots in the main clause that can be occupied by ordinary noun phrases. Elizabeth regretted her actions. So regretted her actions is an NP, and instead of her actions, here we have got that she had met Wickham. And Catherine feared the general's temper. The general's temper is another NP, and instead of general's temper, we have got that the abbey was haunted. So that the abbey was haunted is a complete clause, but this is a complement clause. It cannot stand on its own. Now another thing that we should remember about complement clause is the complement clauses in 3 occur to the right of the verb in the main clauses, but complement clauses also occur to the left of the verb as in 4. So previously, the two sentences that I have spoken, Elizabeth regretted that she had met Wickham. Here, that she had met Wickham, it is coming after the verb. In example number 4, we will see that the complement clause is coming at the place of the subject before the verb. that Anne was in conversation with Mr. Elliot dismayed Captain Wentworth. Dismayed Captain Wentworth. This is the main clause, and the complement clause here is that Anne was in conversation with Mr. Elliot, and it is coming at the place of the subject before the verb. The skeleton of the slot in 4 is bracket, and it is empty bracket. Dismayed Captain Wentworth, the square brackets marking the slot waiting for some constituent. The slot could be filled by a noun phrase such as her words. Her words dismayed Captain Wentworth. So instead of her words, we have got that Anne was in conversation with Mr. Elliot. So again, this is working as a noun phrase, and it is coming at the place of a subject. There is one more property of a complement clause to be mentioned here. They can modify a noun. Previously, the kind of sentences I have spoken or used from Jim Miller's book, we have seen that they are talking about the verb. So now we should talk about noun as well. So complementizer can add something to the meaning of a noun. Fanny was delighted by the idea that she could subscribe to a library. That she could subscribe to a library is a complement clause, and it is talking about the noun, which is idea. So here idea, noun idea, is modified by a complementizer. The sequence Fanny was delighted by the idea is a complete clause. The additional that she could subscribe to a library conveys the content of the idea. It is not required to complete the syntax, but we will see later it is not a relative clause and has been given the label complement clause because it fills out the meaning of the word idea. It means that complement clause can modify the verb, complement clause can modify the noun, but I will give you one more example where the complement clause can modify an adjective as well. Who thought up the proposal that the committee be abolished? That the committee be abolished is a complement clause, and it is adding something to the meaning of a proposal. So proposal here is a noun. So there are 3 major grammatical positions for a complement clause. They can come after the verb, they can come before the verb at the place of a subject, and they can also come as extraposed, an alternative for subject position. That they are struggling troubles the coach, that is the subjective position. Her coming was quite useless, again subjective position. They are trying to hold it together, verb complement, to hold it together. Previously, we have seen the examples that the complement clauses, they are starting with that. Here the complement clause is starting with infinitive. So it means to hold. He wants to go. To go is a complement clause. He wants to study hard. To study hard is a complement clause. So infinitive is the another form of a complement clause. That is what the case is all about. Verbal complement clause after copular. That is what. I am not sure when it is open. So sure here is an adjective. I am not sure when it is open. When it is open is a complement clause, and it is adding something to the meaning of adjective, sure. It was not immediately clear how the Soviets could enforce it. It is good to see them in the bath. It is good to see them. So again, to see them in the bath is a complement clause. It means that complement clause can come with that. It can also come with WH word, like what the case is all about. When it is open. Complement clause can also come with to plus first form of the verb, and complement clause can also come with present participle, first form plus ing. He didn't ask what my plans were. What my plans were is a WH complement clause. He began crying for help. Began crying for help. Crying for help is a complement clause starting with Participle. I thought that it was a good film. He never knows how to just say no. How to just say no again is starting with WH word. There are two more types of complement clause. Less common types are the bare infinitive clause and ed clauses. Bare infinitive, it means that to will not be added, but after the verb there will be another verb without to, bare infinitive. Police say the film would help identify the robbers. Would help identify. We can also say to identify, but would help identify. Identify is bare infinitive. He got the doors unlocked. So unlocked is the third form of the verb. I get my clothes pressed. My clothes pressed. So it is ed clause. So these are the kinds of clauses that we can make use of so far as complement clause is concerned. Remember, complement clause is something which completes the meaning and it is the necessary part of the sentence. On the other hand, modifier, it is adjunct. It is not the necessary part of the clause. In this video, I have talked about a complement clause. I have said that it has got 4 different shapes, plus it can have bare infinitive and ed form as well. And it can modify verb, it can modify a noun, and it can modify an adjective. Thank you very much.